Illinois took a sharp turn this week in a new direction that became clear pretty quickly. J.B. Pritzker took the oath of office to become the state's new governor. The Democrat enjoys solid majorities that should be able to push his agenda through the House and Senate. Budget stalemates plagued the administration of Republican Governor Bruce Rauner. Pritzker used part of his inaugural address to clarify his intent to change the state's income tax system.
Our regressive tax system, including property taxes and sales taxes, currently has the middle class paying nearly double the rate that the wealthy pay. That's not fair, and it doesn't pay our bills.
Pritzker outlined several priorities and got to work by issuing executive orders and signing legislation after taking office. One order clears the way for state employees to get their step raises that were put on hold during the Rauner administration. He signed legislation that requires gun dealers to be licensed by the state, and he promises to work with lawmakers to legalize recreational marijuana in the state, among a lot of other things. Now, it is unlikely Illinois will see a budget stalemate with the Democrats in complete control. The governor has the opportunity to get a lot of what he wants done, but it depends on how well he works with state lawmakers. Two people who have a say in that join us for a conversation this morning: Democratic State Representative Mike Halpin and Republican State Representative Tony McCombie. Welcome, both of you, back to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Quickly, what are your first impressions of what we've seen already this week and how it sets the tone for the rest of the session? Is there room for actual bipartisanship, Representative Halpin?
I think there is. What we saw this week was a change in tone down in Springfield. In the 2 years I was down there under Governor Rauner, there was a lot of tension, a lot of unwillingness from the governor to actually work with the legislature on both sides, frankly. And I think Governor Pritzker's ability to reach out to both Democrats and Republicans is going to be a real change of pace, and I'm optimistic about that.
I know there's no need for bipartisanship with the Democrats' control. I know you've stated in the past you would like to see him maybe come over to your caucus. What is your impressions early on?
Well, my first impression was good, I'll be honest. He actually, him and Juliana both came to an event after our inauguration with the Republican House and Senate, and they say that's never happened before. Very nice, had some kind words, really was an olive branch. So my first impression was good.
So on the right step initially, but of course we will see what unfolds down the line. One executive order Governor Pritzker signed this week prevents state agencies from asking job applicants about their salary history. Legislation could also be adopted to make it apply to all companies doing business in Illinois. It's billed as a way to close the gender pay gap. How effective can that be, do you think, Representative McCombie?
Well, from my understanding, that has already been something that's supposed to be happening. So I guess if I was asked what those questions and if I was interviewing for a position, I'd probably call them out on that. But I think that's fair. You know, that's how we move up, and I think that's how it is fair between sexes, or you know, whatever the differences are. We should be judged on our abilities, not what we were paid at our last job.
Do you favor that as legislative to apply to all businesses in Illinois?
Well, yeah, I don't see, you know, I'm not a big fan of mandates, but I think it's certainly common sense, and I think it's fair, especially in private industry. You know, how many times have I said, you know, in the past, you know, whatever the prevailing wage is, I never disclosed what I made before, and I was never questioned on that. Having it removed from an application, I don't think would be a bad thing.
Representative Halpin?
Absolutely, I'm in agreement here. We've had a law against paying women or less than men, or vice versa, for years, and what we haven't seen is that gap closed. And this is another way to try to make sure that happens.
Governor Pritzker, speaking of salaries, gave 20 positions in his administration big pay raises, salary increases that will be paid out of his own pocket through an organization he set up for. Now, there's nothing in the law that says this can't be done, though. How worried are either of you about the precedent this can set and the possible slippery slope that similar organizations running with anonymous donors perhaps can do the same thing and maybe working against the public interest here? Representative Halpin.
Yeah, my biggest concern is that we end up with a government that can only be run by folks with deep pockets with millions and billions of dollars. Now, I do trust JB's motives, and I like where his heart is and where I think his values generally are, but that may not be the case down the road. And so I have some concerns. I'm willing to give this some time to see whether it is a problem. But that's something that we're going to have to address going forward.
I mean, that is a real concern. I think that really hasn't been raised, and it's something that happened very, very quickly in this administration. Well,
it's not only him personally, but there was statute change. We legislatively, I voted against it to raise for agency directors. For me, my thought is how are you going to get somebody who's making six figures at a big tech company to come to Illinois for 150 plus 15, 20% raise that they were going to be getting, plus the inflation in July. for a job that might only be there for 4 years. I don't think that that's going to be the changing factor for any of those folks to leave private industry to come work for Illinois. You know, anybody that comes to work for the state of Illinois, whether it's administrative or, you know, our policy folks or our secretarial, you're coming not to necessarily get rich, you're doing it because you have a calling. And I think...
Does this work against that, potentially?
I think it could. I think it could, and I agree. I mean, that's going to take helping out from ever running for governor.
Do either of you think this requires any sort of legislative move to maybe prevent some abuses?
You know, as the law stands right now, I don't think so. I do want to see, you know, if we do get the good people, if it turns out we're paying some of these folks essentially privately, and we see a form of corruption, or if it is tainting the process, then we can probably look at that. But for the time being, I'm willing to see how it goes.
Playing it by ear. We have more ground to cover with Illinois State Representatives Tony McCombie and Mike Halpin. A new gun law is on the books. What difference that could make for the record.